Well, hello, everybody. Welcome to another installment of Show Review with Mike G, the show of life, the show of Connecticut, Ben and Jerry's, tequila, bitters, and so much more. Today's guest is the extremely affable, likable Mr. Eric Job. He was recently in town, and we met serendipitously at Don's Depot. You know, that's where you do those things. And we said, you know what, let's do this podcast thing. And I just released the interview with Southern Teak last week, the host of Speakeasy on the Heritage Network, and Eric and I talk about them as well. So without further ado, I hope you guys enjoy this great chat with Eric Job of Amor y Amargo. I've heard some stories about Connecticut. Never been. How?
It's an interesting place.
Interesting. How, Eric?
Growing up there, you really don't fully understand the whole concept of your state.
Yeah.
So I grew up in southeastern Connecticut, New London County, kind of on the border of Rhode Island. So probably like a 15, 20-minute drive from where I grew up to Rhode Island. And it's mostly farm country. Yeah. It was, before I was born, it was mostly textile factories. And when those closed, it kind of crushed the economy. So if you weren't farming or working in textile, I don't know what you did there.
Fishing?
Fishing, I mean,
Maybe.
I've done a lot of fishing there. I don't know how commercially that worked out, but it definitely is a place where it's very beautiful in my part of the world, but it's also very boring. And then I would meet people from outside of Connecticut, and they're like, "Oh, you must be rich." And I was like, "No, on the contrary. Like, I would love for you to come see where I live. It's quite depressing, actually."
You ever seen a shanty? Because that's
yeah, exactly. Like, you know.
I'm just kidding.
No, but no, it's true. I've known a shanty or two. But then, like, I got to college and I dated a young lady who lived in New Milford, who was on the other side of the state.
Okay.
And I remember the first time I drove out to like meet her parents. I was like, "Oh, I get it now. Like, this is where the wealth is."
Oh.
And so it's a very interesting thing. Like, if you go to New Haven, you have Yale, like right in the middle of town, but you also have really scary neighborhoods in walking distance from Yale. So
really?
The wealth disparity in Connecticut is very confusing if you didn't grow up there, or even if you did, because it was confusing to me. But seeing it, like, to go back now, it's like, oh, a lot of it's just depressing and you want it to be better, but like you realize that a lot of the wealth is focused in a few places. Yeah. And I don't know, most people just complain about driving from New York to Massachusetts and how they have to drive through all these terrible highways, and they're not wrong.
Yeah, but it's an interesting thing. So, you know, I grew up super middle class, if not low class, depending on, you know. So what were your folks up to? What kinds of things?
My mother actually stopped having a profession. She actually worked in food and beverage for a hotel group. And when she got pregnant with me, she was like, "I really want to be a teacher. That's what I always wanted to do." Yeah. I didn't think about that when I was in college, but she never stopped taking classes. And so she got her master's while raising myself and my brother and running a daycare out of her house.
Oh, amazing.
Which was super cool, like such a nice thing to do for us.
Sure.
She was like, "I just want to be home with my kids. And so if it means me watching other people's kids too, I'm okay with that." And then just taking night classes. So she was doing that for the early years of my childhood. My dad is a parts manager at a tractor trailer garage. Okay. He is insane with numbers, like easily knows 2,000 numbers by heart off the top of his head. And so like he does inventory and people are like you can do that without looking. He's like, "Yep, I don't forget numbers."
Were they kind of born and raised in Connecticut as well?
Absolutely. Yeah. They both were born in the same hospital that I was born in, went to the same high school that I went to. I'm a Bacchus baby. That was the T-shirt they gave you, Bacchus Hospital.
Oh, interesting.
I've always really wanted to make.
Is that the god? No, that's D&E. Bacchus is like the god of fun, right? Like the god of wine and stuff.
I don't know. To be honest with you, I never actually looked into it.
Always a good time with Bacchus. That's all I can say. Yeah. But so second generation, or maybe grandparents are out there?
Yeah. So my mom's family's from Maine. My grandfather was in the Navy, so they ended up in New London, where there's a sub base, cool. So that's how my mom's family got there. My dad's family is his grandparents were born in northern Italy and in Sicily.
No way.
And 3 out of the 4 of them came through Ellis Island. So my great grandfather on the Italian side he built the subways in New York City.
Dude.
He lived in tenement housing in New Jersey, and the minute he had enough money to get out, he bought a dairy farm in Montville, Connecticut, and that's how they ended up there.
That's super cool.
Yeah, it's very cool.
Sicily, now I don't want to be stereotypical. Are there some ties to the mob?
On my family, unfortunately, no, because that would be super cool. I dated a girl for a long time who had those ties, and like researching her family with her was super interesting.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Did you get like preferential seating at dinner and shit?
Never really worked out for me, but
for her, it's been a cake.
I also would never cross her.
Yeah.
I knew better. She was half Puerto Rican, half Sicilian. It was a kind of a scary combo. I was like, you know what? We'll do what you want to do.
Point taken, yeah. Eric. Yeah, I think that. Yes, I've been there.
But it's funny. Like I actually, probably 5 or 6 years ago, I went back to Italy with my parents. They had never been before.
Oh, cool.
I love it out there. So for their 30th wedding anniversary, I bought them plane tickets.
Oh man, it's nice of you.
Well, because my dad is frugal, I've taken note of any dollar I'd ever borrowed from him from like 18 on. And then like definitely when I first moved to New York and was just like hurting and just like eating peanut butter toast and spaghetti, like, I definitely borrowed some money from him. So I owed him $3,005. Very
precise amount.
Exactly. So I gave it back to him. He's like, I was going to call it an even 3, but you're right. It was 3,005. And I was like, but I would really like to put this towards you and mom going to Italy. Like, go see where your family's from and then go have really just like a romantic time on like the Amalfi Coast.
Yeah, that's great.
And they're both like, we can't afford to go to Italy. Like, we just redid the kitchen. We just got the house reappraised. Like, we're broke.
Yeah.
And I was like, I know. That's why I saved up all this money. Like, tending bar turns out it's pretty lucrative. And like, when you work 6 days a week, you don't have a lot of time to go spend that money. So I've just been like budgeting and like hiding it away. So we made a deal. We went for their 31st wedding anniversary. My brother and I went with them.
Yeah.
Which was a super fun trip. And it was amazing because we get up to the hometown of his grandparents, Sporminori. It's like 650 people, probably like a 35-minute drive from Trentino. And my dad, I bought them Rosetta Stone for Christmas the year before I gave them the gift. And so they had a year and a half to like
prep up.
Nope. They're like, we couldn't really figure out how it worked. And I was like, come on, guys.
I don't have a CD-ROM.
I was also like, that thing wasn't cheap. Can I have it back? Like,
that's a very robust and efficiently priced fucking software.
Yeah. So I was a little disappointed with them on that side, but it was really funny because I was at a wedding in Santorini and I met them in Milan. So they come off the plane and they're just like culture shocked and exhausted. And I had been partying with food and beverage people in Santorini for a couple of days. So I was equally exhausted, but in a different way. And I had met Eduardo, who's the count for the Branca family.
Oh, nice.
And he was like, when you come to Milan, like bring your parents to the distillery. I was like, absolutely, of course.
Yeah.
Why would I not do that? So my dad was just overwhelmed. He went to sleep. My brother went to sleep. And then my mom and my friend and I went and got pizza and beers before going to the thing. And I'd taken Italian in high school. My Italian is terrible. But I could generally understand a little bit better than I could speak.
Sure.
And so I kind of said this to the waiter and I was like apologizing. And then he was very much helping me. So we got through this whole conversation of like ordering food and beer and everything. My mom turned, she's like, oh my God, like you just spoke Italian to that guy. I was like, very poorly. And he helped me a lot. She's like, but it's just still cool. Like I thought you really just wasted your education.
No, but this is the thing that's it's sweet. I hope that doesn't sound like a kind of a criticism, but it is. It's totally sweet to care about your parents. It shows that the family's pretty close, yeah?
Absolutely. I mean, my parents did anything they could for me growing up and made sure that I had anything that I needed.
Yeah.
I remember being like, having like friends that had a little bit more money, and I'm like, they have a pool or a trampoline. And they're like, we don't have debt, and we take care of the things that we need to. And I was like, fair enough.
I mean, that's a great way to do it as well.
Exactly. Definitely a lot of life lessons from that. And it's something like I hated as a kid, but as an adult, I really appreciate.
Dude, right.
So.
You always rebel against it until you're smart enough to realize my dad's a hoss.
Yep.
Right? And it takes a while to do that.
My mom retired this year, and I'm super excited for her.
That's great.
She's like, I'm 60 years old, and this job is exhausting. And I've gone in and like read stories to her first graders, and I can see how exhausting it is. Like,
oh man,
I'm there as a special guest for an hour and a half, and I'm like, wow,
yeah,
that's a lot,
dude.
So she's finally retiring. My dad is like trying to comfort her.
Yeah.
He's like the high strung one too, which is funny. She's like, I just don't know. Like retiring is weird. Like, are we gonna have enough money? Is everything gonna be okay?
Yeah.
And he's like, we've been planning this forever. Like, I want you to retire and relax. Like, my dad's going to work until he can't work anymore. That's just who he is. And he's like, I've just done everything I can financially to make sure that we'll be okay. So it's really cute to like kind of watch the two of them like start to figure out retirement.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's so great. But the thing is, as I was trying to figure out, so often the hospitality stuff comes from someplace,
Yes.
My mom also, I was, in her belly, she quit the hospitality industry. She was a cocktail waitress for a long time. But I take you as kind of more of an artistic guy, right?
Absolutely. I actually rebelled against getting a service industry job. Like, it was one of the easier things to do. And I remember thinking, like, that's not something I want to do. Like, I'm a people person, but I don't think that's the kind of interaction I want to have. And so in my head, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go to art school. I'll figure it out. I had friends that were way more talented than I was, and I was like watching them prepare for the rest of their life and kind of being freaked out. Like, I'm not that good or dedicated, which is a scary feeling.
Really? Because you're a graphic design major, right?
Well, and I picked graphic design because I really wanted to do fine art, but I was like, I don't know if I can have a family and support them by like me drawing and painting weird
Being
things.
sensible.
Exactly. Like,
why?
Because my father. Turns out.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like, so there was that whole thing, and I love my parents, but I don't love living with them, and so I moved out at like 18.
Okay.
And I just was like, I need to figure out how to support that to an extent. They were very helpful on the college side of things. Like, they helped out wherever they could, but I realized just like my day-to-day life was now on me.
Yeah.
So I was working at a Ben & Jerry's.
Nice.
In the Mohegan Sun Casino. I'd never worked anything like that before. I made ice cream. I made Dippin' Dots for a summer, or their European counterpart, which is Mini Melts, which was
it's still alliterative. Really?
They had all these lawsuits that were keeping Mini Melts in like Japan and Europe and not coming to the States. And then I guess Dippin' Dots figured out they were paying more to like employ lawyers than they were
to making money.
Money. So they had two factories, one in Deerfield, Florida, and one in Norwich, Connecticut. And I had broken down and applied for a job at a grocery store, which I really didn't want to do.
Been there, though.
Yep. Of course, we've all been there.
Yeah.
And so I finished the application process, and they don't even call you right away. You have to like go on a computer. It's like the local Stop and Shop.
Yeah.
And I walk outside, and one of my friends is rolling a blunt. He's like, "Oh, what are you doing here?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm applying for a job." He's like, "Dude, don't do that." He's like, "I just got this job down at this ice cream place. Like, it's great." I was like a Friendlies or like and he was like, "No, it's like a factory. Like, we make the ice cream and we like package it." And I'm like, "Oh my god, dude, you're so high right now. Like, I can't even."
It's like,
this.
Hey, my friend's cat is like the coolest.
This is my whole life is just my stoner friends being like, "Can I do this thing?" Like,
do you have a cat?
Like, I don't trust you. But he was like, "I'll tell him your name and go down and check it out." And it was less than a mile from my house.
Oh, killer.
And they were just had these huge vats, and they would whip up like the flavored cream and it would go through a series of pipes, and then it would drop into a literal bathtub of liquid nitrogen, and they would freeze, and it gets caught on a conveyor belt, and then you have an industrial core at the end, and you either package it for like bulk or you bring it down to this little machine. It's like one person puts in the little spoon, one person puts on the lid, and the thing just goes and goes, and like, and if you had a good crew, you just like knock it out.
Dang.
We were second shift, so we'd come in there and be like, all you have to do is make 60 cases or whatever, and we're like, oh my god, we'll have that done by 6 o'clock.
Yeah.
Totally fine. So I transitioned from that into actually scooping ice cream, and that's kind of how I got my first taste of like the service industry. The Mohegan Sun Ben & Jerry's closes at 4 a.m. 4 Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Yep.
Wow.
Ours close at 2. Like, last call's 1:30. You would just see like a sea of drunk people coming down the escalator from the clubs.
Huh?
And you're like, oh, this is gonna be terrible.
So you've had plenty of practice from young on to get people what they need to get them on their way.
Of course, and to me, I wish I had realized at that point that like bartending was the way that I wanted to go, because I could have got a head start on everything that happened moving forward. But I really was like, cool, I'm an insomniac, and I like people, so I figured out that part of the equation right off the bat. I was like, those two things I can do, and then I learned to use a blender. Yeah. That helped out a little bit down the road, but really, I was doing this and kind of loving it, like going to classes in the daytime, working until the sun came up. And Todd English had a restaurant across the hallway in the casino. And my friend Bart was a bar back there. He was like, hey, my head bartender's leaving to go open a spot with his like celebrity chef. Mm-hmm. And I know you want to work double time in the summer because you don't have classes. I put your name in there. And like, she came through the line and totally busted my balls. Like, she's like, hey, it's my kid's birthday, and I want to get some ice cream. And I'm like, it's like 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, why are you getting ice cream for your kid? And like, just totally like, and she was name's Jen Sharbach, total ball buster. And so every day you worked, you got a free coupon to like give to your friends or whatever.
Oh,
and
cool.
so she like got ice cream for the staff and like threw a 20 in the thing. And I was like, those are on me. And she's like, are you gonna get in trouble? And I was like, no, I got these coupons that are brightly colored with my name on.
Nice.
Like, don't worry about it. I got you. And then she randomly called me like 2 weeks later and was like, hey, there's job interviews. And I really think you should go. And I showed up just completely blindsided. I thought I was going to be doing like room service for the hotel. And it was for a Tom Colicchio restaurant.
Oh, yeah, Mr. Tom Colicchio.
And so
steakhouse? Is it always a steakhouse?
The ones in the casinos are generally steakhouses.
Okay.
So the Craft Steak was the ones that they did in the MGM Grand. So
Gotcha.
pretty much Foxwoods, which is the other casino near where I grew up, was opening an MGM Grand. And they were like, hey, the one in Vegas crushes. Could you open one here?
Killer, okay.
Absolutely. So I'm like in this interview and they're like, so do you know who Tom Colicchio is? I was like, no.
Was Top Chef on yet?
Top Chef was on. It was in the early season, so like it hadn't completely blown up yet. But like enough where it's made its way into popular culture. I just didn't have cable, so I didn't know what it was.
Yeah.
And so I was like, they're like the Top Chef guy. And I lied. I was like, yeah, totally. Definitely know who that is. I was like, oh, of course. So I went through this super strange interview, and I found out later that pretty much they'd hired a bunch of their staff. At the last second, the casino had realized that they had hired staff from the casino.
Oh, shit.
And they were like, we'll give you all $2 raises or whatever if you come back. So they were understaffed right before they were supposed to open. So they were like hiring anyone like me. Like I just walked in there. Like,
so that was a serendipitous moment.
100%.
Yeah.
I lucked out 100%.
At the same time, are you still working on art and being creative?
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was, as much as I could, like I didn't have a ton of free time, but when I could, I was painting a lot of graffiti at the time.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time was like the late nights that I had off was like going out and painting freight trains or things like that. And that was like my outlet. I was like, okay, these days I'll do this. But right now I'm just trying to make money. I really wanted to eventually move to New York City, but I was afraid to because where we grew up, you're kind of told like, you live here now.
Right.
You don't leave. Like,
but so you pursued art to a degree in which you actually got that degree.
Nope. I dropped out and I fell so in love with fine dining that because the first day I showed up for training and I get greeted by these people where I'm like, oh my God, everyone is so serious. They gave me like a booklet. It's very thick.
Right.
It's like all these things like wine notes and like all these things. And I was like, oh my God, I do not belong here. Like I have no idea what's going on. I've never had a glass of wine before and we're doing a wine and cheese pairing after lunch. Like this is terrifying.
Yeah.
And I called my mom on the lunch break and I was like, I think I'm about to make a lot of people really angry. Like I'm not supposed to work here. And she was like, you're going to be a busser. Like you're going to be bringing people bread, bringing them butter, like filling their waters. You'll be fine. I was like, yeah, but what if someone asked me a question about like dry aging beef or like what they should pair? And she's like, that's not going to happen. Like, just these are all things I wanted you to know growing up, but like we didn't have the money to go out to nice dinner. So like, just take notes and like be smart about it.
Yeah.
Like, okay. The very next day, I ordered the Wine Bible and the Food Lover's Companion,
nice,
just in case. So I was like, I'm just gonna start studying and learning.
Because you didn't want to be caught off guard.
Yeah, exactly. I was like looking at the price points on the menu and like having grown up never eating a meal like that in my life, I was so nervous to ruin somebody's experience. Yeah.
Even though they take it for granted.
Of course, like they don't think a thing about it. Like in my head, I was like, oh God, I'm gonna ruin your meal, and you spent so much money on it. So for me, I just put my head down and was like, I want to learn as much as I can.
Dude, I love basically the blue collar humility piece of this whole thing, right? Because it's like dry age Wagyu or something. Mm-hmm. Great. Now we've had it.
Yep.
When I was a kid, we never got that stuff, man. It was always Salisbury steak, a reasonably priced cut of meat that's ultimately got beef. But like,
I don't know about your parents, but mine cooked it not medium well, like well.
Dude, when my mom would cook that or liver, oh God, it was like a leather shoe.
Terrible.
We talk about it now. I'm like, you can make Brussels sprouts differently, Mom. You do not have to boil them for 30 minutes. She's like, I know. We all live and we learn, right? Yep. But did you feel enticed then to kind of come into that kind of lifestyle?
I tippy-toed into it. Like I was still super like hesitant. Like I was intimidated by it, but I was in love with the idea of it. Like I really was like, I would never forget like the first night that we did full service and like the music was at the right level. The lights were where they need to be. And I looked around the room. I'd been running around for like 2 hours. I had a minute to stop and like, just like I was going to get a tray or something. And I was like, this is beautiful. Like everyone here is like laughing and having a good time. And like people are really enjoying themselves. I'm like, I helped do this. Like, And at that point, I was like, oh, I just want to keep doing this forever. So I pretty much was very open with management and told them, put me in any position you want me to. I want to learn.
Yeah.
I was very confused because the hosts that we had at the time were seating people in a very odd way. And I wanted to know if they were just bad at their jobs or if there was a system in place. So my friend Mary was in charge of the whole host stand situation, and I asked her if I could maitre d'.
Yeah.
Or I asked her if I could host one day a week. And I was mostly at this point food running and expediting. And she was like, why? Like, you're going to make less money and you're going to be angry the whole time. And I was like, I need to know how this works.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm so new to all this that I want to know why different parts of the restaurant work in different ways. And I want to learn the systems. She was like, okay. She was like, well, put on a suit and I'll see you on Wednesday. And I did that for a couple weeks. She was like, I kind of like you up here. Like, would you maitre d' one day a week? Because we only have two and they are best friends and they never have a day off together.
Yeah.
I was like, absolutely. Like, I'll talk to them about like changing my food running schedule. And so I started maitre ding one day a week and like learning how that worked and like taking reservations and stuff. And that I was like, okay, this is just another piece of it.
Sure.
Like one day they were short a bar back, so they're like, "Can you bar back tonight?" I was like, "I don't know what that entails, but if you throw me back there,
let's do it.
I'll learn."
You to me, whether or not you probably realized at that point, you like people.
Oh, absolutely.
Talking to them, getting them what they need. So I think that's an absolute quality that just emerges as very clear. Like when you just within 5 words of meeting you. The other thing too that I'm kind of getting, which I really appreciate, is I was talking to because we were hanging out at Don's Depot again the other night with Helen from Redemption, right?
Yeah.
And she's like, these younger, as I sound, I'm not really that old, but these younger kids that are coming into cocktail stuff and doing bartending, they don't want to be bar backs. Nope. They don't want to just like do the task. But it feels like you're the kind of guy that says, I'm not looking at this as I'm better or worse than you. I just want to do the thing to learn the thing. And it seems like that's probably been pretty successful for you.
I mean, I was also very spoiled because some of the people that opened that restaurant were like just that kind of person.
Yeah.
And I clung to it immediately.
Got it. Okay.
I wanted to know why they loved what they did so much and like how to be more like them.
Yeah.
Tom Timmons, who was our service director and eventually our GM, was like a second father to me, like restaurant wise, where he was very understanding, but he cared so much about everything being right.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember him telling me probably a month into the job, I can't watch TV anymore because when there's a waiter doing something poorly in the background, it like ruins the whole scene for me. He's like, it's extras in the back, and I can just see him backhanding them. And he's like, and I'm just so upset about it. He's like, you serve from the left, you clear from the right, hug your guest. And it was like things like that where I was like, oh, you're a crazy person.
Yeah.
And then fast forward like 6 months, I was like, oh my God, he's so right. Like to this day, I watch a movie and someone's setting a bar, and I'm like, why are you doing this way? Like,
and this is a brief tangent, but you ever seen the movie Scrooged?
I have seen it in bits and pieces. I'm embarrassed to say that I have not watched it all the way through.
That's fine. But there's a great scene about a guy somehow getting on fire as a server. And so it's the best way to distract you from how he's actually serving because he's on fucking fire. And Bill Murray's the only one that can see it. It's just, sometimes it's like, man, I just can't watch those scenes. Well, watch that one. It'll reset it for you because no waiter is ever on fire. Ever.
I have seen actually waiters on fire, but it's I've had a lot of weird experiences with fire in restaurants.
Really?
Yeah, I was at a bar with my boss in Chicago, and it was like the first day they were open. It was friends and families, and they had all these candles along the outside.
Yeah.
And they were like beautiful, and they made the room look great. But they placed them a little bit close to like where the tables were.
Oh no!
And at some point, she like turned her head a little bit, and her hair caught fire. And my buddy, I was sitting to the right of her, and I couldn't see what he was saying, and he was like right across, and he just jumps up and like just hats her hair out.
Oh jeez!
And I was like, "Whoa, what just happened?" He was like, "Your hair was on fire." Like, that stuff happens. I mean, I've watched it happen. People like trying to make out sloppy at the bar over a candle, and I'm like, "No, your hair's gonna catch on fire, lady!" Like, get out of here.
As he makes a waving motion with his fist. This is the thing. Well, so the biggest move, though, it feels like, so you're getting kind of imbibed with the hospitality industry, all the elements and the functions of the restaurant here, Tom Colicchio's. It's steakhouse-ish, kind of fine dining stuff. So what was the final step where it's like New York is the place to be?
They were just very cool. Richard Breitschrag, he was the head of operations at the time. I had told him early on that like at some point I would love to move to New York City. Like once I was finally like somewhat comfortable. Like I was stiff as a board for months and months there, just like still afraid to like talk to anyone. Like anytime someone from New York would come down, I would just be like, oh my God, important person.
Tell me why that is, because you seem like a real gregarious guy.
I feel like I am, but when at that point in my life, I was being put in a position where everything was new and scary to me, and that was a new feeling.
Oh, I see.
So like, anytime someone important came in the room, I was like, oh my God, don't mess this up. It's funny, I had probably 9 years ago, we opened Colicchio and Sons, and I was the head expediter, and it just came up on my like memories on Facebook last week, and I like wrote a thing like, Colicchio and Sons opens tonight, I'm running the pass, like so nervous, like wish me good luck.
Yeah.
And I had all these chefs that I'd worked with and all these people, they were like, you're gonna be fine, you're gonna be great. And I remember being sick to my stomach and just like, I don't want to mess this up. I want this to be perfect for everybody.
Man.
And it's not a trait that is like my day-to-day thing, but when it's somebody else's money, it's somebody else's restaurant, it's somebody else's business, I don't ever want it to be messed up. And I think the further I got away from fine dining, the more that kind of left me, where like I think it was ingrained in me, like coming into it with no experience whatsoever, that like everything is very important and like don't mess these things up. So I've been in New York City for 10 years now, and now I feel like everything's great and I love it and I can just be myself and not worry. But at that point in my life, terrified.
Really?
They transferred me to New York and they put me at the Mothership restaurant, his first restaurant, Craft, on 19th Street. And that was the one restaurant I didn't want them to send me to because I knew that was like the place.
Oh, man.
But it was probably the best thing that ever happened because I was so terrified the entire time that I just was like, be better, be better, be better. A lot of people who know me well know that my nickname in the fine dining industry is Fog.
Which is your Fernet Branca painting logo on Twitter or something, right?
Absolutely. And that was like just an ongoing joke. But like it happened because I was a food runner in New York. They were kind of like, well, what did you do the most in craft steak in Connecticut? And they were like, they told us that you were maitre d' on Wednesday. And I was like, oh yeah, maitre d' on Wednesday. I generally run food on like Thursday and Tuesday or whatever. And then I expedite on the weekend. Yeah. And they're like, well, why don't we start you there? I'm like, why don't we start you as a food runner? And I was the first white food runner I think that ever existed at Kraft. And the only one that didn't speak Spanish. And so all the cooks were like, who the hell is this guy? Like, why do we have a white food runner? Because in Connecticut, that was like totally normal.
That's it, right?
Yeah. But, you know, we lived in the sticks. Going into the city, not so much. And so everyone just kind of gave me a hard time. They were hazing me really bad, and I couldn't figure out why they were so mad at me. And then one day, the L train was shut down, and I was living in Bushwick at the time. So it's kind of crucial to me to get there. And they had a shuttle running from the second stop all the way out to the end of the line. Mm-hmm. And I get on the train, and there's two cooks sitting on the train that I went on. I was like, oh, I'm just going to get razzed the whole way back. This is terrible. And they're like, hey, man, taking the shuttle? And I was like, nah, it's kind of a nice night out, and like I don't live that far, so I'm just going to walk. And they're like, you live more than a mile from the station you're getting off, and it's snowing. Like, come to the Lazy Catfish, have a beer with us, we'll all take the shuttle together. Yeah. And in my head, I'm like, oh, man, this is a trap. This is not good.
Oh, man.
So we go there, and like we all get a beer, and they immediately just like launch into like cook talk, and they're having their conversation.
That's good, though. That's fine, right?
Yep, totally. And so I'm watching Arrested Development muted and like drinking my beer. And I didn't drink at the time, so I'm just like trying to like look cool.
Yeah.
And a third cook walks in, and he's hammered. He had the night off, so he'd been drinking. He was coming to meet them. And he walks in the front door, and he's like, "Fog, what the fuck are you doing here?" I was like, "Oh man, you're saying my last name weird. It's Job, like Job." And he was like, "I'm gonna level with you, man. We call you Fog. You're slow and you're white. Essentially, you're a fog."
That's great.
And I couldn't even be mad at it because I was like, that's very clever. Like, I appreciate where this is coming from. And also,
but real quick, please tell me that at that table, he said, I've made a terrible mistake.
I really have made the biggest little mistake of my life.
What have I done? They're like, funny, like, no, it's Eric Job. You're like, no, it's Job.
And it was great, too. I ended up with the two guys that were on the train. One of them I ended up officiating one of his weddings.
Oh, no way.
Like they ended up being three of my best friends in New York. Still guys that I appreciate a great deal. I never will forget going into work the next shift, and one of the sous chefs was like, "Is it true? Do you know your name?" And I was like, "Fog." Yeah. And he's like, "Are you okay with us calling you that?" And I was like, "Yes." And he goes, "Oh my God, it's been so hard to hold in time. I've almost called you Fog to your face like 1,000 times." He's like, "This is the best day of my life." But anytime I get mail from any of those guys now, it's always addressed to Fog or Mr. Fog.
Mr. Fog.
Yeah.
That's a lovely sentiment, really.
Yeah.
Makes you feel included, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I was all about it, and like after that, quickly, we were like, okay, we're still gonna be somewhat mean to you, but like you're part of the crew now.
Yeah.
And those are some of the best friends I ever made in my life. So,
When you talk about, so you weren't drinking at the time, so you're probably 21, 22, something like that?
I was 22 years old. Yep.
So when did you, because obviously the cocktail chapter has been a massive one for you.
Yep.
Obviously leading to brand work, working with Southern Amore and Margot. What was the moment maybe where you had a drink and you're like, oh, fuck, this is pretty different. I didn't realize.
Well, the same guy who told me my nickname, chef by the name of Alex Lira, he'd called me up one night. Everybody's working, and when you work for Kraft family, you get vouchers to go eat at either your own restaurant or other restaurants within the family.
Oh, cool.
And it's a very nice thing. It's a way to like see your peers like work the way, like you see them from a different perspective, and you get to eat a really great meal.
Sure.
And so Alex had taken me to Kraft one night, and I wanted to repay the favor, and I had my voucher, so I was like, hey, let's go to Connecticut and Sons. It just happened to be the night that the James Beard Awards were going on.
Oh, shit.
And Tom was up for an award, and he won. And so we're sitting at the bar, and the service director comes over, and she's like, if you guys want to hang around, like, Tom and all his friends have decided to come here afterwards. And so all these chefs start walking in, like Wiley Dufresne, Andres,
man.
and they're all, like, done up.
Yeah.
And Tom Colicchio drinks tequila, which I
really
love about him. And we had a bottle of Casa Rigones on the back bar. And he asked the bartender to hand it to him. And he just started pouring tequila and like handing it out.
Yeah.
And I was with one of our old GMs, and he looked at me. He's like, I know you don't drink, but shut up and drink it. And I was like, okay.
Deal.
He was like, if the boss man hands you a nice bottle of tequila, like,
yeah.
I was like, okay. So we had a great time. I ended up like getting behind the bar a little bit. I was bar backing at the time, and I was just trying to help out and not realizing at all that I'm getting drunk and doing so. And I get in the cab on the way back, and I'm like trying to tell a story, and I'm having a real hard time. And my girlfriend's on one side, Alex is on the other side, and they both look at me at the same time. They're like, oh my God, you're drunk for the first time ever. And I was like, I don't know if that's true, but I'm having a real hard time putting my words together. Like, what's in my brain and what's coming out of my mouth are two different things. And they're both like super excited about it. They think it's hilarious. Like, I end up walking back to our apartment. We dropped Alex. He lived like 4 blocks away. And he and I just like peed in the street because like we were just hammered. And she's like, I'm not getting arrested with you guys. I'll see you at the apartment.
Yeah. So
I walk up the stairs, and she had all these like crucifixes and pictures along the wall. And I realized that I can't walk in a straight line. And so I just kind of like fall against the wall, and I'm just
wiping all of them,
just knocking them all off. And she's like yelling at me from the bedroom. She's like, what's wrong with you? Like, she could just hear things hitting the floor. I'm like, I'm having trouble walking. I get into bed and I lay down, and like immediately I'm like, oh, these are the spins everyone talks about. So like I go in the bathroom and I throw up, and it's summertime, so it's super hot outside. We had like a tile floor. I was like, oh, this feels so good. Like, I don't know how I somehow like kicked my underwear like behind our bathtub. She wakes up in the morning, and I'm just like curled up on the ground, and she's like, what's wrong with you? I was like, I know what a hangover is now, and the floor feels really good. And that was the first time I ever got drunk, and I was like, oh, that wasn't so bad. Like,
that's a hell of, I don't think anybody has, most people don't have as nice of a story as that to depict their first time drinking. I certainly don't. And I think that's a lovely way to be introduced to tequila too.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think back to that all the time because it's funny. Like I'd had beers before, and I'd had like a little shot of whiskey here and there. Like someone would buy me a shot, but like it never had like more than 3 or 4 drinks in a night before. And that night was like what tipped it. Damn. And I was like, okay, I guess we do this now. Like that was kind of fun.
Welcome to the jungle, baby.
Exactly.
Well, so it's been, gosh, because so you're saying 10 years in New York, probably worked all kinds of spots. You worked at a rum joint, you worked at a bitters place.
Yep.
Where, like, looking back at this now, you feel like it's been a pretty good ride?
I mean, I've had a great time. It's been, I've been very privileged. I've been very spoiled to fall into these positions, like, just like, always just seemed coincidental. And then, like, one thing would lead to another. And, it's funny, when I started working for Altos, they asked me for a resume, and I was like, I haven't made a resume since I worked at Ben & Jerry's because I just kept meeting great people, and they kept, like,
I vouch for you. Let's do this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And then I was like, great, this is awesome. And so I was like, oh my God, I don't even know what to write on a resume. Like, this is embarrassing. I'd like never done anything corporate before. So it was a very interesting transition. But like, and it's very cool that I've got to work with a lot of people that I respect and people that I consider great friends.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what that was for me. Like fine dining, I've worked for Tom for probably 4 years. And after a while, like I became the head bartender at Tequila & Sons, and that was a big thing for me.
How old were you when you became the head bartender?
I was probably 24.
Killer. So a couple years later.
Yeah, when I was bar backing, I realized that we were having trouble with inventory and like how we were doing our ordering. So I asked the beverage director if I could start doing the liquor ordering. And he was like, I can't pay you any more money. And I was like, I know, but I touch these bottles more than anybody. And like, I think that if we could get a system together, I could do this.
Yeah.
And they're like, cool, if you don't mind doing it from like your Gmail account.
What? Why are you so ambitious and so self-motivated? What's wrong with you, Eric?
I was raised by very good people, I guess. I mean, I don't know. Everyone, my father like called me one day and he was like, oh, your mother told me you worked like 80 hours this week. Like, that's awesome. I was like, no, it's not. I'm so tired. Like, I haven't seen my girlfriend at all. We lived together. Like, but I needed to get like this menu flipped and I needed like to take care of all these things. And
Yeah.
so it was like, it's definitely like I'm 50% my dad and 50% my mom. Like my mom can throw a party and she's super fun, and my dad is like, I like numbers and working hard. And you know, it's, if I look at my grandparents, they're the same way. And so being raised closely with all that family was probably a lot of that. But also because so much of it was still like new to me. I just wanted to keep getting better. I wanted to improve the things I saw in front of me. And so Tequila & Sons was a really important thing on that level for me. Like it was the first time I ever put a cocktail on the menu. It was like the first time I ever did liquor ordering. And I worked with a guy, Evan Buchholz, who kind of changed my career. He very much did not want to be like seen or heard, but he's an incredible barman. And he was running spots out in Long Island. And he and his now wife wanted to come and work in the city before like figuring out what they were going to do next. And so once again, just very serendipitous, like my very first night training as a bartender was his night trailing to see if he wanted to work there. And he ended up having like a tremendous effect on how I looked at cocktails.
Really?
Yeah, I was like shaking Manhattans, and he was like very nice about it, but like,
don't do it.
You should really stir that. And I was like, cool.
So, but that you know, again, coming back to like, there's this humility piece, but you don't come across as a know-it-all.
I try not to because I know I don't.
Neither do I. But you know that's a rampant kind of personality style where it's like, yeah, well, you're doing this wrong. That's not where that's made. But where does this sensibility come from? Is this from your focus as well, where you're like, no, I'm open to learning, and we're just here together doing this thing. I don't want to be better or worse or any of that.
Yep. My mom is like the constant education person. Her thing is like, I've gone on so many tours that I've hated across the country because we're in a random town, and she's like, oh, look, there's a tour on this historic site that no one's ever heard of. Like, we have to take it. And like my brother and my dad and I are like, oh my God, we love you, so we're going to do this. But like, no one's going to smile. Like my dad is like catching a snake, and the tour guide is screaming at him like to put the snake back down. And my mom's like, you're embarrassing me so much. Like, why? He's like, well, it was running across the path. Was I not going to catch it? Like that's kind of their marriage to a T. But it's also like how I am. It's like I take a little bit from both. And so, you know, my mom getting her master's degree when I was a kid, like that was a thing. Like to me, I didn't realize at the time, but I had so much respect for her because I know how much she had on her plate and like how much time she wanted to spend with her kids, but like wanted to continue her knowledge. And my father's just like, I'm going to put my head down and do the best job I can do, even if it takes.
That's a beautiful collection of talents, like just genetically for you, right?
Once again, just like I couldn't ask for better parents. Like they.
How did they feel about you being in the hospitality industry?
Well, they hated it for so long.
When did they kind of turn around?
I mean, I think Tequila & Sons is probably when, like, the first time they came and like, saw me behind the bar and, like, actually making drinks and just the way that I interacted with my peers. They were like, he's happy doing this, and they seem to respect him, and the drinks are delicious. That was kind of like a turning point. Me working for Altos, definitely my mom was like, oh, you have like health insurance, like you're a real boy. Like, because when I left fine dining, I lost all that. I went back to being like, well, you know, you don't have health insurance anymore. Like,
just don't fuck yourself up.
Exactly. Just be careful.
Don't break something.
Yeah,
please.
And if you do know how to fix it properly, you get a little bit of super glue and some tape, and you're fine. But that was another thing where my mom is the queen of backhanded compliments, and she's like, did they know that you didn't graduate from college? I'm very happy for you, but like, I don't want you to upset anybody. Thanks, Mom. Appreciate that.
keeping us humble.
Exactly. And I'm like, I went to like a different kind of college. It's fine.
Yeah.
I know things that you can't teach in college.
And there's also a pattern of vouchers.
Yep.
Ben and Jerry's.
Yep. My whole life I've been rewarded for if you work hard, you get to do fun things.
You get a voucher. It's great.
Yeah. So I think the more time that they've spent in New York City, it's more actually them going to my friends' bars. And like my mom loves the Dead Rabbit.
Cool.
I woke up one day and they were supposed to come in to visit with some friends, and I had worked the night before, so I slept in a little bit. She texted me. She's like, "We're the Dead Rabbit whenever you want to meet us." And I was like,
What?
She was like, "I just love this bar." And we were down at the 9/11 Memorial, and so I wanted to take my friends and be like, I know this place. And I was like, oh my God.
That's almost surreal.
Yeah, my mom, her Facebook presence is hysterical.
Is it strong?
It's a lot of New York City bartenders and then like her friends from back home. And
man.
like the things I see posted, I'm just like, this is amazing.
This is so cool.
She's like, oh, this person just requested my friendship. Have I gone to their bar? And I'm like, you haven't, but like it's so-and-so like from here. And she's like, oh, okay, I'll accept that then.
You're an agent. And she's the star, isn't it?
Absolutely, 100%. She wants, like, now that she's retired, she wants to work for Altos.
Oh, man.
And so her idea was like, listen, I'll be the senior citizen ambassador. And I was like, please tell me, what does that entail? She's like, picture this. I go down to Florida. I go to retirement communities, and I have a little Paloma cart. It's branded with Altos.
Sure.
My mom loves to make Palomas. Like, she will, if you come to my house, like, she will.
That's her thing.
Yeah. So she's like, I will just make Palomas for all the old people, and we'll just make that like an Altos community. And she's like, and then I'll go to the next one and do that. And I was down in Mexico, and I was hanging out with some of the Pernod Ricard Mexico people. They're like, that's actually kind of genius.
It's actually super genius.
They're like, you need to get her down to Mexico. So right now we're trying to figure out dates where I can take my mom down to Arandas and like show her the distillery and everything.
Oh, man.
Like, she's a very big supporter of anything I do, but also has really like fallen in love with Altos. And her social media is like, today I found out that Palomas are not as pretty on the beach because you have to put them in a red Solo cup, but they're just as delicious, and you can put your feet in the ocean.
She's even a good writer, right? Like, she's totally primed for fucking social media.
100%.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
I think actually people should take note.
I mean,
because we're always focusing on the young people.
Of course, but you know.
But people 55 and above, they drink tequila and they got money.
Margaret's out there doing things. She sends me menu placements. She's like, now available at this bar. Or
oh my god.
She's like, Blanco and Repo available at Norwich Discount Liquor.
That is an amazing support system, man.
Oh, it's great.
That's so cool.
It's great. Support systems are everything. I couldn't do any of the things I do without friends and family. So.
How do you feel about the community in New York? Pretty close?
Very close. I mean, it's. I've been there for so long, and I had people take me under their wings very early on, which is huge.
Yeah.
It's very scary to like move out there and not have friends and like realize how much money you're spending every month and trying to like hustle and still have a life for yourself. But especially like the hospitality community out there is very tight knit and people look out for each other. So definitely fortunate on that one.
I mean, you know, I saw Souther last year. I met him kind of randomly. He had those damn glasses. And he gave me a I Love Bitters pin for my backpack. And I finally get to sit down with him, you know. And it just feels like, you know, the perception. So Austin's a very, very small community, ultimately. I've been here almost 20 years. And we all know each other. And there's some new people coming up, which is really, really nice. Kind of inject some new blood, if you will.
Absolutely.
But it feels like there is an old guard in New York, right? And that's kind of where this whole thing kind of trickled down from culturally. And do you see it kind of changing with new people, new money?
I mean, I think a big issue that we have in general, and this isn't just New York, this is a lot of major markets, is that the public's acceptance of craft cocktails and actually like the excitement that it brings has made everything expand very quickly. And you don't have these people who like barbacks for a long time and work their way up. And so you're trying to like train someone, or like you're hiring people who haven't really, I don't want to say being in the trenches because I'm not, you know, like I worked in bars like anybody else did, but like I meet people and I'm like, why don't you know how to do that? Like, did you not spend enough time?
It's like 2 + 2, you know math, right?
Yeah.
No? Oh, shit, you missed that.
Oh, okay. And the thing was like, I was never great at recipes, and I don't know, I definitely relied on my personality more than anything else. I just liked meeting people. I liked making people laugh. I liked making people feel home. And that was my big thing. So making drinks made sense. I just like to make them up because I was like, I don't want to like memorize a bunch of classics. Like I want to make something that like I think you like. Tell me what you want to drink, and I'll make it for you. But like I think a lot of the time that I spent bar backing was stuff that like I wish people paid more attention to.
Mm-hmm.
Danny Neff's one of my best friends. He trains some of the best barbacks I've ever met in my entire life. Like the first time I actually worked together behind a bar with him and watched him train a barback, I was like, this is what more people need to do.
Yeah.
And his barbacks are great. Like everyone that he's ever trained that I've worked with is now behind a bar themselves and like making drinks, and like they know how that step works as well. It's
Well, so it's like I know you are a fan of baseball.
Yep.
And first baseman, fine. Everybody knows they're stars. The shortstop, though, those dudes, unsung heroes,
Yep.
stopping line drives, right? So it's like you don't realize how important a barback is until the barback's not very good.
I honestly, like, I would rather have a good barback than a second bartender 9 times out of 10. If I have a barback, like when your barback is like you are running out of something in the well and you're realizing it and then they're handing it to you behind you, like that is something where I'm like, just like the heads up, like watching what's about to happen and like being aware of your surroundings and just like never being in the way, but always making sure you have everything you need. Like I will take a good barback over anything.
It's pure empathy.
It's
right. Because you think about how selfless that is.
No,
all I want is for you to be better. And that is, maybe that's why it's hard to find good barbacks. One, because training's bad, but two, because people are thinking about themselves.
Well, and I think, there's a few levels to it too where, I don't know, a lot of the barbacks I've had in my life are like little brothers to me.
Yeah.
Like the amount of like just being like, oh my God, like you are like my child.
Yeah.
But you go through so much with them, and like when they realize what needs to happen and do it, and like sometimes like my first barback I ever had is a guy named Walter Ramirez, and we worked together first at Kraft. He was a polisher in the dish pit, and then we went over to open Colicchio and Sons together. So when I stopped being an expediter and started barbacking, and then they gave me the promotion to be like a daytime bartender. They're like, well, we don't have a barback anymore. Like, you need to pick your replacement. And I was like, I'll take Walter. Like, I've known him long enough to know that like he's gonna be good at this. He's smart. He realizes problems and he fixes them. And I looked at him one day. I was like, you were such a better barback than I ever was. And it's true. Like I just watched him like solve problems, and I was like, I never even thought about that. Like, that's genius. And it's those kind of barbacks that you like just love to have with you. Like, you do anything for them.
I think these are the supporting players, man. Yeah. People don't remember always the no, they remember the forwards in basketball. They don't always remember those guys, but they're just as paramount to success as anyone else. It's not as thankful of a job. It's a little more thankless, but eventually you rise to get a bit of appreciation and all that recognition. So you get this illustrious career of vouchers, working and fine dining and working to be a bartender. Super personable guy. Why the jump to brand work then?
Honestly, like it wasn't so much of a jump as it was progression, I guess. Like I left fine dining and I got into like cocktails. Yeah. That was like a big transition for me because all I ever knew was fine dining. And I was so nervous to like actually work at a cocktail bar that I was just offering people to like bar back. Yeah. I wanted to learn from the floor up. And I had a meeting with Michael Neff at Ward 3, and he was like, why do you want to bar back here? And I was like, I've never bar backed at a cocktail bar before. I want to know everything from the ground up. Yeah. He was like, are you the head bartender? I was like, I am. But like, I taught myself a lot of what that was. I didn't like, it was like when I was a bar back, no one was teaching me this, and this. I just was like going on the internet and Googling things or asking people who knew more than I did. And I just kind of wanted to like work in a system. And he's like, man, do you think that you're a good bartender? And I was like, I hope so. Yeah. He was like, do you think you're the best bartender? I was like, not even close. He's like, that's good enough for me. He's like, I don't have a gig as a bartender for you here, and I'm not going to have you be a bar back, but we have a second bar uptown, and that was the Rum House. Oh, the Rum House, okay. And Damon Dyer was running it at the time, and he was like, go talk to Damon and see if it's a good fit for you. Like, I'd love to have you work with us, like, but you should not bar back here. And I was like, okay. So I met up with Damon. I went up to the Rum House, and he and I clicked immediately. Like, I was super excited to work with him. And he would just ask me a bunch of questions about, like, things and how they function behind bars and what I thought. And we were on the same page for a lot of it. He's like, awesome. He's like, when can you start? And so that was, like, my first, like, okay, I'm working in a bar, not a restaurant. Yeah. And that, to me, was, like mind-blowing. Like, I was so nervous and so excited. And up there, it's Times Square, so it's weird. Like, it, like, tested my hospitality. I bet. Because we were in a hotel that did a lot of European travel, and then we were right off Times Square, so it was a lot of tourists. Sure. And mostly you lived and died by what was going on in the theaters. So if there was a good show, you were going to be busy every day and like matinees on Sunday. Like, but if there wasn't, you were kind of like, it could be really dead. And I learned a lot about like priorities as far as speed is concerned and like where, like what you need to do in those situations. Like the first time I was ever like truly like 3 or 4 deep and still making egg white cocktails, like just trying to keep up like as shows are letting out. And that was hugely, it just changed everything. Like it was nuts. And through that, I ended up working at Extra Fancy. My best friend from high school, Tom Johnson, was a bar back there.
Can't believe that. It's crazy.
And, you know, our boss broke his arm and he was the bartender. And he's like, you got a 10 bar now. He's like, I don't know. I'm a bar back. I like being a bar back. But he did a good job. So they were like, you know, find a veteran bartender to come work with you. And they never found anybody. And I was like, you know what? I'm working 5 days at Rum House, but like, I'll just have one day off. I'll come work with you. And that became a thing. We would throw a party every Monday called Muscle Shirt Monday. Nice. And it was just like a big industry hangout at the end of the night. People getting off their shifts and like looking for a
Muscle Shirt Monday.
Yeah, we'd wear tank tops after midnight and encouraged bartenders to wear their own muscle shirts. So like people would come and take their vest and tie off and they'd have like a tank top underneath. And like people would walk in who weren't bartenders and be like, what is happening at this bar right now? It's like December. And there's just a bunch of people like drinking shots of beers and like dancing on the bars. It was just like a really fun kind of wild night. It was like my one like kind of blow off steam night.
Sure. Almost like a night off maybe?
Yeah, it was like a night off, except like I would see the sun come up every Monday. So it wasn't exactly a night off as much as
restorative.
It was like, exactly. It was fun and like the owners were great. Mark Raincourt sat me down and he was like, I've heard that you can party. And I was like, I don't know if that's a good thing. I was like, I can drink, but like, he's like, but you mostly worked at places where you don't drink behind the bar. I was like, well, yeah, until I got to Rum House and like, we would drink a bit behind the bar there. He was like, cool, are you okay doing shots with guests? And I was like, yeah. I was like, am I getting fired before I ever start this job? He was like, I mean, you're just trailing tonight, but like, I just wanted to know.
Nice.
He was like, I think you'll do all right here. And he was always very supportive of me, which I appreciate. But it was like, so I had like that thing. I was like, all right, I'm in Times Square 5 nights a week, one night, like lighting shit on fire and having a good time. And then that's around the time that Souther one day was like, hey, you hang out in this bar at Amore Margot more than anybody that doesn't work here. Like I lived 6 blocks from there and Friday was my only night off and it was always Souther and Chris Lauder behind the bar. So regardless of what I did that night, I'd always swing by and like have a quick drink with them. And if I had a date or something, I'd be like, if it doesn't go well, I'll see you later. If it does, I won't. And I would like drop them off beer and stuff, just like a fun thing. So they were all going down to Tails. And so there was like, can you work Wednesday for me? And I was like, I don't know how to work at this bar. I was like, he's like, oh, you'll be fine. We'll do a couple of training shifts. And I ended up working that shift for him. And then he was like, can you get Thursdays? So I was like, well, I can get someone to cover my Thursday at Rum. I ended up working 7 days a week for a while at all 3 bars. And then slowly started like giving my Rum House shifts away. Because they were still the most exhausting shifts at the end of the day, like just people wise. So that turned into me like working between those 2 spots. And it was during that time that I made the jump to brand work. And that was mostly like...
Does it give you some more time? Like more space for yourself? I think this is a no.
Oh my God, it's an absolute no. It's a nice thought. And I feel like some brand ambassadors are better at it than I am. And I this is mostly on myself, but you know, when you're on the road 75, 80% of the time, when you come back to New York, people want you to be out and want you to, you know, they want to see you. And so like, I'm supposed to have the weekends off, but like those are the only days that I'm in New York. So a lot of times it's not that easy.
Yeah.
Anyone who knows me knows that like on Sunday night, you can find me behind the bar, or not behind the bar, but at Basic. If you come when Russell's in the bathroom, you'll find me behind the bar.
Yeah.
I 10 bar there about 10 minutes every Sunday. So he can use the lavatory. But that's like my cheers. Like I go there and I'm like, all right, I'm home. Like if people want to find me, they can. If not, I'm kind of just hiding out there.
Are you more of a coach or Norm figure?
I would like to think more of Norm.
Okay.
I want to say coach because coach was awesome. But like, you know, I'm on the other side of the bar. And so other than Russell pooping, I'm not really back there, but it still feels like, which is funny because I actually served Norm one time. George went.
You really served George.
It was like a bartender's, like, I don't think I'll ever do anything better than that.
Oh my gosh.
He walked into the Rum House one night. He was doing an off-Broadway show and he walked in with his manager and I was like, it took everything in my being to not yell, Norm. I was just hoping the cocktail would be like, Norman. But yeah, he came and like they hung out and I just tried to do anything I could to like make sure people didn't bother him or like I didn't bother him. So he came back the next night and he actually came and sat at the bar. And he was like, "Hey, can I just get a Budweiser?" And I was like, "I can't believe I'm cracking a
Oh
Budweiser
my God.
for Norm right now." Like,
Did you put it in a mug?
I did not. We didn't have the proper glassware for me to do it properly. So I gave it to him in the bottle. And he looked at me. He's like, "What do I owe you?" And I was like, "You know what? Thank you for coming back. I really appreciate seeing you again. Like, that one's on me." I want to be like, "I can't tell you how amazing this is. Like, I would pay you $40 to serve you a beer." Like, I grew up on Cheers. This is amazing. And it was just like, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't." Like, I got off work and I'm at 5:30 in the morning. I just texted everybody like,
elated still.
I served Norm.
Dude.
But yeah, so like I have now more of a Norm role. It's like I tell them all the time, like, if you guys want to yell Norm when I walk in, I'd be totally okay with that.
Yeah.
And nobody ever does. But I get like a jobby here and there.
Dude, so you're 80% travel, you said?
Yep.
With Altos. East Coast? Yeah.
Technically.
Where else?
I'm clearly in Texas right now.
Yeah, so what? I kept hearing of this man, Eric. You know, people I was hanging out with are like, this guy's in town. I'm like, I didn't know you. And
yeah,
I'm just glad I ran into you. But what
great.
What were you doing in Texas in the first place?
So I have my counterpart, my work wife, like my
Anna,
favorite
right?
person is Amanda Gunnarsson, who lives in LA.
Yeah, right.
She had to be in LA this week, so they were like, "Hey, can you cover Texas?" And I was like, "Is that a serious question?" Of course. Like, I never get to come down here. Like, it's not my territory. Like, I've only ever been on my own time. So I was super excited at that. She and I kind of yin yang the country.
Yeah.
There's just two of us. She's technically West Coast, I'm technically East Coast, but we're both kind of national together.
Sure.
Like, I couldn't be in Florida a couple weeks ago, so she flew out and covered Florida for me.
Oh, that's great.
And vice versa. I went to Portland, Oregon a couple weeks for her. Like, she and I are very close, and we kind of just figure out what works. Like, our bosses are great people, and they are just like, "Sorry, I know this isn't really your territory, but like, can you cover this?" And she and I are both like, "Absolutely, whatever you need." So I've got to see a lot of the country, even though I'm technically the East Coast ambassador.
That's good though, man.
No, it's great. I love
Get to travel some more than you thought. So like, just providing support for the troops here in town and kind of kicking some spots. I know you're at Nickel City for a bit.
Yep, I was at Nickel City yesterday at Half Step. I went to Little Brother for the first time.
Nice, yeah.
Very cool.
Super small. I love it.
I mean, coming from Amore Margo, I felt right at home. I walked in there and I was like, "Oh my God, you have so much space."
Oh, that's amazing. Okay.
It's like, this is my kind of bar.
Yeah.
I fit right in here. I'm going to try to check out Last Straw tonight. I haven't been in yet.
Yeah.
But, I've heard great things.
Great. Jay's a good dude.
Yeah, I've known him forever, so
Yeah.
I'm super excited to try to catch up with him. And I don't know. I love to go to other people's cities and just say, "Where do you want to go?"
Yeah.
Take me, like hanging out with Bostic the other day, and he's like, "You ever been to Deep Eddy Cabaret?" And I was like, "No." And he's like, "Oh my God, we got to go right now."
Yeah.
And I walked in and I was like, "I love you so much. Like, this is amazing."
He's in touch. Yeah, I mean, Bostic has been here so long, man. He's super in touch with all that stuff.
Yeah.
Because it's always like kind of high value cocktail bars that are really in Austin right now. But there's still these places.
Yeah. And like, I'm more comfortable in a dive bar than I'm in anywhere
too.
else. Like, that was not the first time I've been to Don's Depot. I was just super excited to go back.
Yeah.
And to me, I think like if you find a good balance, like I loved making craft cocktails for people. I loved being in those bars. But as soon as I got off work, I was like, "Get me to a dive bar."
Yeah, dude.
Someone interviewed me there once. They were like, "What do you drink when you get off your shift?" And they wanted like some Negroni variation or something.
Yeah,
and I was like, "I have a domestic beer and either whiskey or tequila, depending on what kind of night I had."
Dude, exactly. So we showed up and you kind of came just a little bit later, but like Bostic and I are just drinking Knob Creek. That's it.
Yep.
That's all I want.
Yep.
I don't even need ice. Doesn't matter. You're at Don's Depot. You're at a dive bar. Just drink some fucking bourbon. Get it over with, right?
Absolutely.
I think it's great. So, not talking about production and shit with Altos, but how's it been going? It seems like I've seen Altos grow profoundly as a brand.
I mean,
here in
it's been
Austin.
insane. Like I said, I've been with them since December 2014.
Oh, wow.
And the amount that I've just seen it, like it's like, to me, it's like my baby. So like when I go out and I like see it in places where I'm like, "Oh my God." Like when I started, it was like such a thing of like, I know I can find it here. I know I can find it here. And like, just like, my buddy Jay was at a dive bar with his wife in Memphis, and they had a bottle, and he like texts me, he's like, "Oh my God, we're watching hockey, like drinking Alto shots right now."
Man,
And I was like, that makes me so happy. So it's been neat to kind of like see people get to know the brand, be a part of, showing it to the world. And I just like very fortunate to be part of it. It's been a lot of fun. I get very emotional about it.
Dude, I mean, agave is a very special thing.
Yeah.
Whether it is tequila or mezcal, it's like
Yeah.
both of them, the community itself is a special, unique type of group of folks.
Yeah. I mean, I was down in Mexico at the beginning of December, not for work. I just missed it. And
Yes.
like I hadn't been down in a bit, and it was the end of the year. I had a little PTO left over, and Delta sent me a thing like flash sale, like see Mexico City for.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm in. Like I try to get down there whenever I can. I was so privileged to go down and do a Del Maguey trip with Misty.
Yeah.
That was amazing.
God.
So things like that are just, anytime there's an opportunity to go, I'll try to figure it out. But it's a very special place and some very special spirits.
Well, the price on Altos is great for one.
Yep.
Don't talk about production. I'm not really interested in it, but shots. What do you like? What's your mom's doing Palomas? That's
Yep.
I think really fucking precious.
Yep.
That's maybe the best way to do it. But like, so what do you? You've got a budget, right? You're at a bar, and you're like, well, let's exercise this money, this financial stuff. What do you do with the folks? You get shots with them? Do you get?
I kind of I feel the room. I see what people are doing. I like to lie to myself and be like, if I have a tequila soda, I'm hydrating somewhat.
Brilliant work. Intellectualizing the drinking. I love that. Yeah.
That's like my slow drink. I tell people all the time, because generally I just drink it neat. Like that's
Yeah.
how I like to drink most spirits. And one day I was at a bar and they were like, they know me, and they're like, oh, Altos neat. And I was like, actually, if you could throw some rocks on it. They're like, yeah. And I was like, it's like a governor on your engine. I'm like, if I throw a couple ice in it, it slows me down a little bit. Because if I'm having a good conversation with somebody and I have something neat, I'll accidentally drink it in 2 sips. Like I don't even think about it. But if I throw ice in there, I'm like, oh.
The rocks are a governing body. Oh, that is fucking brilliant.
So for me, it's generally one of those 3 things. It's either neat, it's on the rocks, or it's some soda. I do love a Paloma as well.
Yeah.
Like in the summertime, that's super refreshing. If I'm with Daniel Warlow, I have tequila Negroni.
Yeah, Mr. Warlow.
4 years of friendship selling tequila. And he goes to work for Campari, and I'm like, well, it looks like we're going to just continue to drink tequila Negronis forever.
You tried to find a way to combine forces. I'm sure of it.
I mean, but that was the thing. He drank that when he was on Altos. Like
Yeah?
that was his
Oh,
drink.
yeah.
So for me, I was like, I guess we're just going to keep doing this.
Nothing changes
It worked out perfectly.
except the pay from field on the paycheck, right?
We're still brothers.
He's a good dude
Yeah.
for sure. All right, so I got one last question for you. Besides, where you're off to next, which I'll ask in a second. But normally I ask like where people drink, who they drink with, living or deceased. But I want to change it up a little bit.
Okay.
So you are just chilling at your place, drinking mezcal, tequila, doesn't matter. What in the mood right now? Kind of wintry. What record would you put on and jam out right now? What's like the quintessential record for you to enjoy with a nice glass of agave?
See, a lot of this, and this is my thing, is like variables are
Totally.
huge.
Oh, sure.
And so for me, because I love, we make a joke that like when we close Basic at the end of the night, Russell's tending bar and I'm just there drinking tequila,
Yeah.
and DJ EJ comes out.
DJ
And he's like, jump on the iPad and like
Yeah.
you take over. And so a lot of it is like kind of like I think music sets the mood more than the drinking does sometimes.
I totally agree.
So it's like sometimes I'm like, I'm not even gonna drink tequila or mezcal right now because like what I'm listening to right now makes me want to drink like I don't even know, like Calvados. I'm like, oh,
beautiful, beautiful, yeah.
So it's like I guess if I was sitting at my place just like sipping on mezcal, oh man, that's tough.
I know it.
But probably Beatles Revolver.
Yes.
Because that one checks a lot of boxes for me. Like I could be in
Dude.
different moods and like
Yes, because it's loving. It's dark and sad too.
For No One is one of my favorite songs of
Oh.
all time. And like I get to it, I'm like, I'm gonna pour myself another drink right now, but I'm gonna love every minute of it.
Norwegian Wood's on there too, right?
Yep, absolutely.
A beautiful.
No,
list.
Norwegian Wood is
Oh,
that's
that's
Rubber Soul.
Okay. Taxman. The
Taxman.
opening track, which is a lesser Beatles song, but still
Still,
a quite good song. On that. Eleanor Rigby's on there, right?
yep, absolutely. It goes right from
Yeah.
Taxman into Eleanor Rigby.
Which is the weirdest, most disjointed fucking
I
thing.
know. And Taxman was one of the first songs that George Harrison ever wrote.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep.
Because he did, there's one on Hard Day's Night that he wrote that was quite. It's in the movie and stuff.
Yep.
And man, yeah. So this is good. I wish I had it on vinyl so we could just go sit in my room over here and fucking listen to it and drink. Regrettably, but I was listening to Huey Lewis in the news sports last night.
Amazing. Also great.
Which really was nice.
Yeah.
It was nice listening to.
100%.
Dude, so, sipping some mezcal with you, Eric, meeting you the other night, kind of learning about your trajectory and stuff. It's been really brilliant getting to know you. What's the
Thank
next?
you so much for having me.
Yeah, dude, for sure. So last straw tonight. a good next step, right?
Yep.
Good. Well, maybe we'll do it together. We'll see.
I'd love to. Yes, please.
Be good to get out. So I appreciate you taking the time out, man.
Of course, man.
Godspeed on the travels.
I'm so glad to have met you the other night.
Yeah.
That was like great timing and
serendipitous.
Yeah, that feels like that's my whole life. So thank you for continuing with that trend.
Who am I to stand in the way? Of good fortune.
I appreciate that.
Dude, talk to you soon, Eric. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
So there we have it. Mr. Eric Job has had a very interesting journey. He is really in love with the industry. He's really in love with people, and it shows. It's just a joy to be here around him. Not someone that I've heard complain. Super uplifting, very norm-like as we talk about. Cheers. So Eric, thanks so much for letting me have the opportunity to sit down and chat with you. Can't wait to see what you're up to next. So thanks everybody for listening to Show to V with Mike G. No matter how many movies you cram in the next 30 days because Halloween is so great. Or if you're thinking, this cauliflower crust thing, it may be a fad now, but I quite like it. Please keep dancing.